And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll, Atlantis.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag, Jingle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If there's methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You read? We don't need any more of these.
Good evening. You are taking a live look right now at Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, where SpaceX is getting ready to launch the Starlink 10-34 mission. And say it with me in chat, you know exactly what we're going to say. This is not your ordinary Starlink. And I'll have to give you a fast explanation as to why. But before we turn around to that reason, I am going to introduce my co-hosts who will be joining me on commentary on this cool Friday evening. Joining me, keeping with the alliteration at least, is Cody. How's it going, Cody?
It's going good. It's been a while since I've been on one of these Starlinks, so it's really excited to be back. I'm really excited to be back. And yeah, as Sawyer was saying, not your ordinary Starlink for this one.
We joke about it, I say it every time, but that's because usually there is something cool, and this one is particularly cool, so we'll talk about that in just a moment. But speaking of particularly cool, out in the muggy heat is one of the coolest people I know. It's Max. How's it going, Max?
Oh, geez, Sawyer, you are too kind. But good evening, everybody. And it feels like we were just here a couple of days ago, were we not, for a couple of other launches here at the Cape? But SpaceX keeping up with a very fast launch cadence, so we are always happy to come back out.
Yeah, you and I were there Wednesday. You and I were there Monday. You were there for another one Wednesday. You were there for another one Monday. No rest for the weary.
Can confirm.
Speaking of no rest for the weary, staying awake over in Europe tonight to help push the buttons, pull the levers is Jay Keegan, producing tonight's stream. So, as always, as a reminder, if you have any questions, you can tag us at NASASpaceflight, and we will do our best to answer as many of your questions as we can. But let's get things started off with the basics. Cody, what do we know about Starlink 10-34, the mission?
Oh, 10-34, the mission. Today we got 27 V2 mini Starlink satellites. Pretty standard for the group. We're going to be going up the east coast of the US in a 53.16 degree inclined orbit. It's going into a target orbit of 265 by 277 kilometers. It's approximately 16 tons. And yeah, we got a couple of recovery windows downrange pulled up. We got our splashdown area for debris response area. Well, not debris response area, but we got our splashdown area for second stage there off the coast of Australia and New Zealand there.
Yep, and that is the actual one with the launch trajectory heading towards the northeast, as you pointed out, which is the case with the Starlink Group 10 missions.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, we've seen that for the last few missions. Speaking of only a few missions, Max, the booster flying tonight looks very clean.
Well, clean, I think, is a bit of a stretch, but certainly less sooty than a majority of the Falcon 9 first stage fleet in Florida for sure, as this is B1092, and this will be only its fifth flight. And so far, it has flown CRS-32, NROL-69, nice, GPS-37, and just another singular Starlink mission. So in the grand scheme of things, especially compared to the rest of the fleet, it is a youngin' and still has quite a many missions ahead of it and a long life. Should the seas be kind and the atmosphere be nice to it upon stage separation and boost back in entries, many more ahead. Stationed downrange, it will hopefully be landing on a shortfall of Gravitas, one of SpaceX's East Coast drone ships here, about 8.5 minutes into flight, stationed around 600 kilometers or so downrange. And stationed a bit farther downrange to aid in fairing recovery is Doug. So, by all accounts, this is, at least in terms of recovery, this is your ordinary Starlink mission. But obviously, well, I guess, I mean, it's kind of not, because it's also going northeast, and only the previous 2 or 3 at this point have gone northeast, and that is something that we are all still having to get used to here on the Space Coast, having watched the Group 6 and the Group 12 shells launching on a 43-degree inclination southeast for the better part of the last couple of years. So, besides an ISS trajectory, we hardly ever see anything go northeast anymore. So it's a treat.
A treat for now until we're halfway through the summer going, can we get the southeast ones back already, please?
No, we want these. These are fine. Sorry, Sawyer.
Oh, come on. I live to the southeast. I like the southeast trajectory selfishly. So, but anyway, while we have you out there and we're talking about, it's been a wet day, Max, but so far everything seems okay. What are we looking at weather-wise?
Yeah, it has been. I know you were talking about a pre-show, Sawyer, that it has been a rather wet and soggy day here, both in South and Central Florida, more appropriately for SpaceX. Showers on and off all day, storming occasionally as well. My phone has been going off nonstop with Phase 1 and Phase 2 lightning warnings coming into effect and expiring all freaking day. So it has just been one of those days. But in terms of the actual launch window that we are looking at today, there is actually a 40% chance of a weather violation at the opening of the window and only a 10% chance at the end, with the primary concerns being cumulus and anvil clouds, as well as the surface electric fields rule. There are many sensors stationed all around the Kennedy Space Center and the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, picking up and monitoring the electric field on the ground as well as in the air. Because the last thing you want to have a rocket do of any kind is create its own lightning, and it can certainly do that if it flies through any thick clouds like cumulus or anvil. And anvil are typically reminiscent or a sign that stronger weather is brewing in that area. We don't want that, but as far as we can tell, the Mark 1 eyeballs are showing us I want to say a partially cloudy sky. There is some overcast ahead, but I can also see a fair number of stars behind them, along with a moon that is setting behind us. It is a lovely small crescent setting just behind the VAB from our perspective over at the Kennedy Space Center. But because it has been raining and storming all day, it is around at 90%. It's very humid out here tonight, and there's also no wind as well, so you can basically drink the air through a straw if you really wanted to, or at least that's how it feels. But that also means that the sound from all 9 Merlins should carry a lot better to where we are, and I will make sure the microphone is set up that comes across to everyone watching indeed. But I guess TLDR, things are looking okay so far, and if SpaceX needs to occupy a later point in the window, the weather does seem to be improving even more, but fingers crossed they won't need that.
Very much fingers crossed for that we can get this nice off the beginning of the window and everyone can celebrate with some with a candle to begin their weekend here. Or I guess celebrate their Saturday, depending on where you are in the world.
Yeah, and as you can see from the right-hand side of your screen, that is the flag that is over here next to the countdown clock here at the press site at the Kennedy Space Center, and it is hanging dead still. There's absolutely no wind out tonight. It is about as stagnant as it can get.
Also what we like to see both on the ground and with the upper level winds.
Absolutely. That's actually a good call, Sawyer. I forgot to talk about those because both for the risk criteria, or at least the concern levels for upper level winds, booster recovery weather, and solar activity are all currently rated low. So all good signs, and hopefully SpaceX can get off the ground in the first part of the window, or at least the window opening.
That would be nice, because if it does, that is when we get to why this is not your ordinary Starlink. We are on the precipice of a turnaround record tonight. It's just fun to say precipice, too. So, if SpaceX launches successfully tonight at the top of the window, That would be 2 hours, 8 days, 2 hours, 8 days, 31 minutes, and 10 seconds from the time of this launch and the previous Starlink launch from Slick 40. That is a very, very fast turnaround time. The record prior to that, 2 hours, 8 days, 59 minutes, and 30 seconds. So even if
Hey,
they go a
Sawyer.
touch in... Yeah?
Do you mean 2 days, 8 hours, not 2 hours, 8 days?
Is that what I said?
Yeah, unfortunately. I had to point it out.
Gee, I'm wide awake, folks, I promise. But yes, so we are talking, it's about a 20-minute wiggle room for it to break the record here, but that is just impressive pace. And what's crazy is the last one that we saw before that was the second fastest turnaround time, and also we're talking under 3 days. So this would be the first time that we would see 2 launches back to back from Pad 40 with turnaround times of under 3 days each. So 2 launches in under 6 days from the same pad. This was the first one. This was the most recent one up until tonight, and the one that set the second fastest turnaround time leading into tonight's launch. That just boggles my mind how quickly they are turning these things around and sending them out.
Yeah, Pad 40 is by far and away the busiest launch complex in the world, and that goes for both, obviously, the world being U.S., Russia, China, and everyone else who is launching. Launch Complex 40 beats just about everybody in terms of launch cadence, although it's worth noting that Rocket Lab has had a rather impressive pace over at LC1, A and B over in Mahia, New Zealand. So they are really the only ones coming close, but a sub 2.5 day turnaround for Pad 40 seems to be becoming the norm nowadays, even with new records being set.
Exactly. I know they had been trying to go for a 48-hour turnaround most recently after the previous Hawkeye mission. So, but of course, they're dealing with the same thing that Florida sometimes has to deal with, that is terrible weather along coastlines. So let's see. Let's get to some questions here. Here's one from 9/8 Central. I'll throw this one to you, Cody. They're asking, are the Falcon boosters transported to the Cape in sections like the shuttle SRBs were?
Well, the Falcon 9 core stage is transported by itself on a semi-trailer. First, they're kind of made in Hawthorne, where SpaceX HQ is, and then they're transported off to McGregor to actually get static fire. Well, for the certain ones to get static fired out there, they are transported by semi-truck just for the first stages there. They don't transport them all together, and they aren't like an SRB where you can transport them in sections, right? So one big booster on a semi-trailer, and then they get transported down from McGregor down to whatever launch site they're going to be launching from, so either Vandenberg or the Cape out there.
Yeah, it is very possible that you can pass a Falcon 9 booster wrapped in super tight black plastic wrap on the highway and not know that you just passed a rocket.
Yeah. I believe on a recent members stream, D and DOS were actually driving on one of the same roads that these boosters would take out of McGregor. And so, really cool to just maybe have the possibility of seeing these on a public highway.
Yeah, it's kind of cool when you do. I think I've driven past one. You just see a very long cylindrical tube. You can kind of tell it's like that's something different. It's very long, and also having seen enough of these, you're like, oh, that was a booster. It is very cool to see. Which, speaking of, this booster also has something interesting about it, or should I say interesting missing from it. This particular booster does not have a Falcon 9 logo on the side of it, which, Cody, what does that mean? What is this booster usually used for then?
Yes, so this booster, was originally designed to be a Falcon Heavy Sidecore booster. These boosters, have differences between them, a regular Falcon 9 core stage and a Falcon 9 Falcon Heavy side booster. There's some structural differences, right, whenever you're mounting these things on there. But what they'll do is they'll sometimes make these boosters and then actually get them rated for flight on these just single stick configuration Falcon 9 missions. And so these could either be used in the future or never used in the future, and they just have them in stock for future Falcon Heavy missions there.
Yeah, and there's so many times that we've talked about on stream. Oh, well, it's usually a one-way street. It's usually a Falcon side core will fly as a side core and then go to a regular Falcon Falcon Heavy side core and then go to a regular Falcon 9 core. They would never do that with the center core because it has to be specially strengthened and attachment points, and SpaceX now has a center core that has been tested in a Falcon 9 configuration and very likely can and probably will be flown as a single stick Falcon 9 before becoming a likely expended Falcon Heavy center core.
And hopefully it comes here and not Vandenberg, because that would be a rather wicked booster to see come back.
Oh, please let it not be Worst Coast, please.
Hey, come on.
I mean, that would be. It's gonna be cool to see that regardless, but I'm just glad I did not make a whole Peter Beck thing of I will eat my hat if they launch a center core. I'm glad I did not do that. What I am glad is people became members here tonight. It's so hard with the way that YouTube changed these, so if I butcher people's names, I'm so sorry, but this new system is don't vent. Venting is at 20 minutes, 20 seconds. XD TV60I, I think it is, say you're becoming a Red Team member. Anna Leiden, thank you for becoming a Padrat member. Chris Ray, thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. And Chromatic Order, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. Now, I mentioned hopefully we get to that venting, not just me venting, but the 20-minute, 20-second vent, but there's plenty that needs to happen before that, right, Max?
Indeed. So we're just currently just over 42 minutes until T0, but a lot has to happen between now and then. The first timeline or the first milestone of which is coming up in just about 4 minutes time. Mark, I'm trying to hold it out. 4 minutes. Now, in 4 minutes from now, the SpaceX launch director will either verify if the vehicle and ground systems are either go or no go for propellant load. Assuming all is go, and that is given at T-minus 35 minutes, both stage 1 RP1 and liquid oxygen load will commence, as well as stage 2 RP1. That will continue up until about T-minus 20 minutes or so, at least for stage 2, and that is when we will see the big vent, or the best vent as we call it, and that is when SpaceX begins to purge and thermally condition the lines in the transporter erector in preparation for stage 2 liquid oxygen loading. Prop load will continue on the first stage and second stage up until about T-minus 3.5 minutes or so. There are certain cutoff times for stage 1 locks and RP1 and stage 2 locks at that point. And we should hear individual callouts for each, assuming SpaceX comms are live. But the key point to get to right now, or get through, is the T-minus 38 minute go or no go. And assuming all is go for prop load at T-minus 35, we should be seeing frost on the bottom of the LOX tank at about 32-ish minutes time. Might be a bit more difficult to see on this booster with the lack of soot to contrast against the bright white finish of the vapor and frost that builds up on the outside of the tanks, but you never know. This is actually a very clear view that we have from the press site tonight, because normally the pesky shrubbery that you can see probably on the bottom of the frame normally gets in the way, but I seem to have maneuvered to a good spot here to where we can see about as far down the rocket as we possibly can from the press site, being about 4.5 miles away or so. Great view out tonight, and not a lot of atmospheric distortion either, which is lovely. We hardly ever get conditions this good in the summertime, so trying to take advantage of that, and hopefully we are not too far away from seeing things commence.
Hopefully, we will get that indication. Again, for those type of callouts, we don't hear them for non-crew launches or non-specialty launches like that. For these, we typically will, if we're lucky, get a post on X, and if not, we see the frost. So that is what we're going to be keeping an eye out for. Let's go back to some more questions here. Here's one from SpaceX fan who's asking, Cody, when will Slick 40 have its first crew launch? Well, I mean, it already did, right?
Right. God. Sorry. What is that first mission? It was one of the Axiom missions, I believe. Right.
It was Crew
It-
9, actually.
oh, Crew 9. Right, because that was all right. Sorry, I don't have the entire thing pulled up in my head. I don't have the spreadsheet up, but yeah, Crew 9 was that first mission there. And so yeah, we've seen that first launch there, and I'm not sure when we'll be seeing the next launch out of there. But with this new crew tower they put up at SLC 49, we'll be actually able to launch crew out there. It's pretty cool.
40. I knew what you meant. It's
40.
late.
Oh man. Space Coast
Sorry.
has so many pads, 37, 40, 39. Oh, it gets mixed up all the time.
Yeah, 49 is potential, maybe, kind of, probably not, but could be Starship. But yeah,
Yes.
right now it just is a phantom pad,
Yes, yeah.
which sounds spookier. But yeah, at this point, that was kind of wanting to get that off while having a very important Falcon Heavy mission that they had to worry about. Because, reminder, Falcon Heavy can only launch from LC-39A. So now you have the ability to launch crew from both, at least. And that gives you a chance at better success of still being able to get your people to space, while also getting your very expensive government missions to space as well on the heavier rocket. Here's one also from SpaceX fan. I'm not sure if this would even be possible, but they're saying, will any of the Starlink satellites be tested on the Starship Starlink satellites, be tested on a Falcon mission, probably a smaller version?
Well, currently, the Starlink satellites most often flying on Falcon 9 now are the Starlink V2 minis. So they are obviously an evolution of where these Starlink satellites have come in the last 2 or 3 years. Actually, longer than that. More like 4 or 5 years now. Crikey, it's been a while. I'm getting old. But the full size, swear I can't remember. Is it the full size V2 or the full size V3 model Starlinks that are going to be flying specifically on Starship?
It was supposed to be V2, and in the interim, while they were getting the full-size V2s, they were going to come up with a miniaturized version that they could at least launch on Falcon. And guess what they called those? V2 Mini. Hey, what
Yep.
do you know? That's what's launching tonight. But no, it will be V3 now. In a way.
So in a way that they are somewhat testing the technology on those newer V3 satellites on the V2 minis, but they are of such scale that Falcon of any kind, whether Falcon 9 or Falcon Heavy, would never be able to support a launch because they are so large and can only fit in the payload bay of ship. So the V2 minis are really as big as we can get, or as big as the Starlinks can get, while still being able to be supported by Falcon launch vehicles. We still have yet to see a Falcon Heavy launch Starlink. As cool. Can you imagine if Falcon Heavy was flying as often as Falcon 9 with just larger batches of Starlinks? How cool would that be?
Oh my gosh. I mean, is that kind of going to be like Kuiper on New Glenn in a way?
I mean, it's single stick. Granted, a very big single stick, but
True. Yeah, but that's what I mean, using a heavy lift vehicle to launch internet satellites. Yeah, lots of little satellites.
I do wonder how many more you could get in that extended fairing for Falcon Heavy. That'd be interesting to see there.
Probably a lot, but it's worth noting that fairing as well is only going to be flying for DoD or Space Force missions with SpaceX on Falcon Heavy. So, and those are also not going to be recovered. It is a fun thought that they could fit a lot in there, I'm sure, and that is going to be quite a sight to see whenever that gets to the pad for the first time. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Maybe next year, maybe the year after. We don't have a full timeline of when that will come online, but hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah, they also don't have a deadline to meet of how many satellites they need to have in orbit by the end of July of next year, of 1,613 or 18.
Totally not.
No, because at this point they have a very well-established network. They've launched, what is it, over 8,000 satellites in total at this point? With obviously there's less up there considering they were over 9,000 now. Thank you, Alex. Including the ones that were earlier on that have since deorbited, ones that have failed, ones that have had to kind of move out of the way. So they're not all necessarily operational 9,000, but they have a very strong network, as anyone who's used Starlink can attest to. So again, we want there to be successful competitors too, because that hopefully means better for all the customers. We are now under 35 minutes to go, which means hopefully we'll start to see frost forming on the rocket in the next couple of minutes. So everyone keep your eyes on the base of the rocket and shout "Frost" in chat when you see it. Although maybe not in all caps because the Nightbot gets angry.
Does it really?
It doesn't like caps. It will yell at people for caps, yeah.
Oh, man.
I don't know how many caps. I'm not going to say to test it because it will get mad at you, but...
Oh, God. Alex in the back channel. No cap. For real, for real.
Oh,
Facts.
Jeez Louise. Yes, sir. I'm merely reading out what is being said in the back channel. Don't be yelling at the messenger.
Oh, I didn't. I just said facts.
Oh, I thought you said Max. Wow. I obviously
No,
have hearing
facts.
problems.
Like the no cap, all facts, whatever it is.
Fax no printer.
Facts no
Wrong.
printer, that's
For
it.
real, on God, no cat. Never. Oh my God, brain rot. We're going all in on that now, aren't we?
Of all of us here, I am the oldest of everyone currently on stream, and I am the one encouraging the brain rot. What is wrong?
I was about to say, this sounds like something I would be saying. Like, you guys shouldn't be saying this. What are you doing?
We're old, okay? We're old farts and we know it.
Speak for yourself.
Fine.
I mean, no, I'm pretty old actually.
Yes, I am trying to be young again, Jay, okay? Still older than you, Max.
Thank the Lord. Still, youth is still on my side compared to you, Sawyer. If you want to go
I'm
down
sorry,
that route,
which one of the two of us still has all the hair on their head?
I would have more hair in my head had I not chosen to shave it at 20 years old.
That
Granted,
didn't answer the question.
Granted, who has more hair in their face? How about that?
That's just because I
Actually,
shaved.
gents, bringing the topic back on, I'm seeing a bit of frost and vapor now beginning to appear at the bottom of the liquid oxygen tank on Falcon 9's first stage. So visual. Oh God!
Good morning, everybody.
Breaking news! Fueling is underway for Starlink 10-34, which is also a confirmation that they are now committed to that first T0 in the window. So if they, for whatever reason, have to abort the launch tonight, they will have to try again tomorrow at the earliest.
Yep. So let's not hope that doesn't happen. Guess which one of us has more frost on our face? Booster
What?
1092.
I would sure hope so.
Yeah, that sounds
Anyway.
painful.
That does sound painful, and I don't know where Sawyer's going with this.
I don't either. Don't worry. But what I do know is that with this being the actual attempted targeted T0 now, it is confirmed that if it does go off today in this window here now, so at this T0, which is the only T0 option we have, it will indeed set a new turnaround time. So that would be 2 hours, or son of a gun, 2 days, 8 hours, 59 minutes, and 30 seconds is the current turnaround. This would drop it down to 2 days, 8 hours, 31 minutes, and 10 seconds.
Actually, technically, if they had to abort the launch attempt tonight, they would technically have to be launching 2 days from now, I think, because technically the launch is still tomorrow because it's not quite midnight here on the East Coast.
Well, it's, 5 minutes away from being tomorrow, okay?
Correct.
But commentary struggling tonight. Oh, come on. There's plenty to talk about. I'm just mixing up my words tonight.
We're having fun. It's a late night Starlink.
Yes.
Yeah. And you can, of course, ask questions, too, if you want to change the commentary. So, just throwing that out there, too. Let's see. Here's one from Jenga Tess saying, what's happening with direct-to-cell Starlink satellites? Are they discontinuing that? Cody, you want to take this one?
Direct to cell is on certain groups. So on -10 missions, they aren't necessarily doing those direct to cell. In certain shells, in certain altitude ranges in shells, they have to put the direct to cell satellites. But in the -10, we don't really see that. We just see the V2 minis there.
Yeah,
so I don't believe
the first direct to cell direct-to-cell constellation was actually just recently completed. So,
Yep.
and those were all launching, at least in Florida, in the Group 12 shells, which were a mix of the direct-to-cell satellites and also the full-size V2 minis. Whereas the Group 6 shell were only full-size V2 minis, just like the Group 10 shell is tonight.
Yep, and you can see on the left side of your screen there why that large extra antenna on the end of it that is the sort of LTE dish on it to allow for the direct to cell connection. So those take up a little more space inside the fairing, but as you pointed out, Group 1 is done, so they can actually and have begun starting testing of the direct to cell. People I know are actual beta testers, and hey, look at this, another
MVAC
find for
testing.
SpaceX. I mean, they're doing a late night testing over there at McGregor.
Merlin is just such a gnarly engine. It really is.
The power on it is unbelievable. And keep in mind, you got the 1Ds and then you've got the vacuums, both of which are intense.
And there
Oh, no.
isn't a ton of differences between the engines. The most prominent one, at least visually, is at least in the flight configuration, the MVAC needs a much larger nozzle to compensate for the lack of atmosphere around the engine. Some missions, or I should say engines, most missions require the full-size nozzle in order to get the most amount of performance possible out of the MVAC engine. But sometimes when there's enough of margin built in with the propellant, they will sometimes, to save cost and time in manufacturing, they will go with a smaller sized MVAC nozzle we call MVAC stubby, to save time and cost in production. That we don't really see that fly too often, and we never see it fly with these Starlink missions because they are so heavy, among the heaviest payloads that Falcon 9 carries regularly while still being able to be reused. So the full-size nozzle is required. So while it is still a treat to see an MVAC stubby nozzle flying, more often than not, we see the full-size one. But also when they are at McGregor, they cannot use the full-size MVAC nozzle because of flow separation at the very end of the nozzle, and that would create a whole bunch of reverberations and vibrations that could potentially just destroy the engine, and you do not want to do that. Obviously, it is not ideal firing a nozzle that is optimized for a vacuum environment in the full sea level atmosphere. So that is usually attached when the vehicle arrives at its launch site.
Yeah, in fact, when you even see it, we were talking about transportation earlier. If you've ever seen on McGregor before they roll them out, you kind of see the attachment point of like where the engine bell needs to go, but they ship it also kind of saran wrapped in black wrap over to Florida or to Vandenberg and then attach it there. So it's the ultimate stubby nozzle in that it's barely a nozzle, so they can test it.
It really is barely a nozzle at that point. Like genuinely, like there's almost nothing there. It's startling almost.
Yeah, when you realize that's what producing all of the thrust that you see when it launches, and in particular, that was an MVAC test. So when you see that giant engine bell glowing and it continuing all the way into orbit, and then you see it on the ground during testing, it's like, how is that the same rocket? It's very cool. And again, you can keep track of all of those testings happening live over at McGregor Live 24/7 right here on NSF. Normally, they don't happen this late, and as you can see, we had up in the corner there, window resumes at 7 a.m. Sometimes SpaceX does test after their window closes, and if they do, then they do have to pay a fine typically to the city of McGregor, where it's located. But they they did it anyway tonight. Thomas and Backshell saying that was the latest test we've ever seen. So a treat for all of you watching tonight, staying up late. Let's see. Stefa GT is wondering, Max, what's the jellyfish forecast tonight?
0.
Yeah.
We only ever really get the so-called jellyfish effect whenever Falcon 9 is flying very close or at sunrise or sunset, or we also sometimes get a very faint jellyfish phenomena whenever there is a full moon out and about over our heads here in the central Florida skies, and that there is light from the sun or moon illuminating the larger exhaust particulates of the MVAC engine on Falcon 9's upper stage. Sometimes it is at a point in the sky where it also lights up the exhaust from the engines on the first stage. But most often we see it, the most prominent effect from it when the MVAC engine fires. But tonight, unfortunately, none. There is hardly a moon to speak of if it hasn't set already behind us. And we are certainly very far from sunrise or sunset, so it will look very, very dark tonight, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know, Max, you'll do your camera work magic to make it as visible as possible for the viewers.
I'll certainly try.
Yeah, because that's one of the things. When you're there in person, your eye can kind of adjust to it, but there are definitely times where the expansion plume coming from that second stage is more visible than others. Very much so. And full moon helps with that. You'll still be able to see it, because I saw someone messaging earlier that, or putting in chat earlier, this was their first ever launch, and they're in Florida for it tonight, which, again, big suggestion. Don't worry about a camera. Don't worry about taking pictures. Just enjoy the launch. Just watch it with your own eyes. You'll see plenty of photos on the internet. You won't be able to see it with your eyes through a lens as well. So I'm just going to throw that out there for anyone that is watching for their first time out there. Here's a question from Ship 36, RIP. I noticed that Falcon Heavy center cores aren't attempting a landing anymore. Cody, is that because of the missions? Because they've tried and it hasn't worked out? Why?
It's when launching Falcon Heavies, the core stage doesn't burn for much longer than the side cores, and with them being extra heavy due to the additions of the structure needed to support the side cores, they just have a lot of mass, and it's the benefit of landing the booster is very marginal there with actually getting it back. So actually using a little bit more delta V to send the payload off to a better orbit gives it a little bit better margins there. You know, you get to remove the landing legs, that reduces a little bit more mass. And in every instance here, when we're launching something, we're trying to reduce the mass as much as possible there. So it's a thing of like, you get a lot better margins out of the first stage there.
It's also worth noting that it has proven to be very tricky to land a Falcon Heavy center core, as it has to travel much farther downrange and decelerate a lot more than the side cores or even a normal Falcon 9 first stage would. Out of the first 3 attempts from the demo flight, Arabsat 6A, and STP-2, they were only able to land the center core once. But that being said, they were not able to successfully recover it because, unfortunately, it fell over. Similar to what we've seen in the past 2 years with, unfortunately, 2 or 3 other boosters. Sad face. But yeah, recovery with the center core is very tricky, and I think at some point they want to get back to that. And I think the fact that they want to fly a center core in a single stick configuration for a bit before a customer mission, I think just proves that they want to get as much data on how the flight characteristics of that center core are and how they compare to I guess a quote unquote normal Falcon 9 to I guess better predict and try to make Falcon Heavy center core landings more of a commonality, I guess. So it's a very tricky beast, and they also have to travel a much farther way downrange.
Plus, on top of that, a third reason is the fact that it uses up a drone ship. So it's one of those missions where
Yes.
they tend to land the side cores at all costs, basically at LZs 1 and 2. So that way they can do that. And then that's 2 more drone ships that can be used. So as soon as Falcon Heavy lands, they could be launching a Starlink a couple hours later, the next day, very shortly thereafter. And then a couple days after that, as we've seen like this one with the very quick turnaround, launch another one before the drone ship would even be back, given how far out it would have to be. So there's
Exactly.
3 reasons why we typically don't. But one thing that we typically do see is right now, and you see it on your screen there, that is the 20-minute, 20-second vent. Cody, what's the best vent for?
This vent is to clear lines in preparation for second stage loading. So on the transporter, with the lines that actually supply fuel to that second stage and fuel it up, when we're working around cryogenic propellants, we want to make sure that we aren't going to crack any lines. We aren't going to cause any issues on that tower. And so the best way to do that is start flowing those propellants very slowly and equalize the temperatures there so that you aren't shock cooling those lines. Also, there's some expansion reasons there, right? Whenever you're working around cryogenic propellants, you can have some shrinkage of materials as they get exposed to the extreme colds of these temperatures that the LOX is at. So yeah, it's just in a way to help preserve that ground support infrastructure and make sure that you don't have any failures, material failures there.
Yeah, as much as we jokingly call it the best vent, it really is, as you see there on the timeline, a LOX chill down, so chilling down those lines. And that will happen for about 3 minutes more, usually at T-minus 16 minutes. That vent will shut off, so to speak. That means that LOX load will begin on stage 2. Meanwhile, RP1 load continues on stage 1 and stage 2 for now. And Max, you were talking about that humidity. We've seen it, I think, for every Falcon launch, basically, so far this week. They have all been pretty stagnant with that sort of cape around them, shall we say, given the humidity.
Yeah, and then I guess there is a subtle northern breeze over where it's like 40 is because that vapor is flowing in a more northern direction, which makes it look like, ironically, like it's wearing a cape. But yeah, it actually feels quite nice apart from just how thick the air is right now. But that is a telltale sign of what the weather is like. And as you can probably see, only a small breeze and very humid based on how dense and how pronounced that vapor cloud is.
Exactly. So as much as it tells us about the status of the vehicle, it also tells us about the status of the weather at the Cape. Let me take a moment to thank some people here. XT9, thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Bideford, good to see you again, gifting 5 Red Team memberships as well. Appreciate everyone either staying up with us tonight or waking up with us this morning or hanging out with us this evening. Whatever time it is where you are, we appreciate you joining us. Let's go with that. Here's one from 98 Central, and I'll throw this one to you, Cody. They're asking, why do some Falcon rockets have the gray stripe on the second stage? This one does not. This one is just regular black and white, but sometimes you see one with the gray stripe, right?
Yeah. So the gray stripe on those second stages indicate a mission extension kit. So one of the things you have to deal with in engineering these vehicles is, well, your second stages are going to have a certain amount of lifetime to them, right? And so actually being able to maintain on-orbit capabilities and being able to have a longer mission is a capability that some spacecraft need, right? And so this mission extension kit, which is indicated by the gray band, introduces more, I believe it's hydrogen tanks or other tanks to keep the propellants in the vehicle and maintain them for a longer duration of time, because as as the mission goes along, these cryogenic propellants like to boil off, and you can lose a lot of that. So yeah, those mission extension kits will extend the mission. Obviously, for these Starlink missions, since they're going into low Earth orbit and they don't need a ton of time on orbit for relights or anything there. So yeah, that's why we don't have it on there.
Exactly. And yeah, not so much on Starlinks. We did see it recently. I'm trying to remember which mission that was. There was one from Slick 40 a couple weeks ago that had it. I believe that was a GPS mission. So let's see. Here's one from Owen. I'll throw this to you, Max. If SpaceX could launch an expendable Falcon 9 or a reusable Falcon Heavy for a mission, which would make more sense? It's a good thought question.
Great question. That's actually a topic that we haven't dived into for a while. From a cost perspective, I believe I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I think it's most cost effective still to launch an expendable Falcon 9. Falcon Heavies are very expensive beasts to fly, whether or not you are going to be recovering both side cores or not. The most expensive variant or rocket that SpaceX currently has in operation is a fully expendable Falcon Heavy, which we have only seen twice so far with the Viasat 3 mission, and what was the other one? I think it was Europa Clipper this past fall. But that, of course, that's not what you're talking about here. You wanted a reusable Falcon Heavy, but it is still more cost effective to fly a Falcon 9 at that rate. as you are only expending a single booster and not having to worry about the cost of propellant and preparation for 2 other boosters. So, while it would be a sad thing to toss away a Falcon 9 core like that, that is probably still your best option.
Yeah, and there are definitely ones in the fleet that are aging, shall we say, that are definitely getting up there in the numbers that, I feel like they'd be okay expending if they absolutely had to, and I'm sure I hate to say this, but I'm sure we will see expended throughout the year. But yeah, and as Alex points out in the back channel, cadence also plays a huge role in it. It takes a while to get everything set up over at 39A for Falcon Heavy, and then on top of that, you have to change out things on the TE, you have to set things up differently at the pad. It takes a while to change it around from basically going from the Falcon Heavy back to a Falcon 9, whereas 2 Falcon 9s back to back, they're a lot quicker, even if, say, one of them has a Dragon capsule on top versus not, which that's a good reminder, Max. We had the Axiom 4 mission, and Dragon is now at the ISS, right?
Indeed, it is, and that should be coming down in a little under 2 weeks now, pending good weather in the splashdown zone. So, yeah, hopefully soon.
And in case you're forgetting about that, we have awesome Dragon merch now, including on cell phone cases. So this is a new one. You can see it there. We have it for the iPhones. We also have it for Samsung. You can check to see your versions, see some of them right there on the screen. They wrap around onto the sides. It's got the Dragon underneath the parachutes there, so you can see it. You can take a look at Dragon, and you can even charge your phone through Dragon, aka you can do the wireless charging with these NSF cases as well. So you can check that out. And if you want actually something from the launch itself, we do have metal prints from the launch. It feels so weird promoting my own photo, I have to say. I am very proud of this one, though. This was one of my best shots. I've tried to get this shot for so long with the Falcon Nebula, where the first stage and second stage interact after they separate, and stage 1 begins its boost back burn towards LZ1. So, yeah, that is available at the shop as both a metal print as well as a paper poster print that you can get as well. And Max, I have to give a huge shout out to you. I mentioned it earlier, but I want to make sure you're there to it. You were the one who helped with getting those settings just right and give me the final tips beforehand. So thank you, Max. And Max also has amazing shots in the shop as well to take a look at.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, you're welcome, Sawyer. Always a pleasure, and I'm glad it worked out.
Me too. And again, like I said, Max has so many more great photos in there too. You should check his out as well, and all of our photographers. And anytime you get a print or a poster, it does go to help support the person that took the picture. I know we can't quite see it right now, but Max, you're hearing a transport stand going by, huh?
Yeah, I mean, because the air is so still tonight, it is fairly easy to hear equipment that is somewhat far away. There's actually a payload fairing coming past the VAB right now. I'm not sure if we are in a position to get a camera over there, but it looks to be the next Starlink payload that should be flying early next week from LC39A, I think, if the schedule currently holds. But there is no logo on it as far as I can see. So that is the biggest indicator that it is a Starlink mission, and also what is on the launch manifest. Sometimes they transport boosters and fairings together, both with the booster and the second stage attached. But I'm currently only seeing the fairing coming by, so I will keep my eyes out in the coming minutes to see if a booster comes by as well. But from the looks of it, it's just a fairing. But just another casual evening, or I guess early morning now, at the world's busiest spaceport.
Yeah, that's all. Just fairings going by, very likely with Starlink satellites. Again, we don't know for certain, but the lack of a mission logo on it or anything like that, and it's probably those. And I know our amazing team will continue to track the fairing halves. Somehow they managed to keep track and find the numbers on all of the fairing halves and keep a spreadsheet of it. It is mind-boggling, but really cool. So now every time I'm out there, I'm looking at fairing half numbers. Here's one from Ninja Guy Dan, and I'll throw this to you, Cody. They're asking, what is the planned flight limit for a Falcon 9 booster? 30? Will they go to 50 eventually? We don't really know, do we?
No, yeah. I remember early on in the program, it was like, oh, it's hypothesized we can get to 20 flights. And nowadays, a lot of boosters are getting to 20 flights. So it's pretty incredible how far they're pushing these. And so, it's just how well they're able to see the vehicle mechanically and structurally maintained through all these flights. And I think they'll keep pushing it. They'll keep pushing it as long as they can. Yeah, it's just a thing of you fly a lot, and whenever you get your flight leader, you always study it and you look internally, see if you have any internal defects on the tank after so many reentries, and you just keep pushing.
Yeah, the current
Yeah.
fleet leader is B1067, and that is currently at 28 flights. Basically, the 20 flight milestone right now is pretty much expected for all cores, unless they had some kind of plan to expend it beforehand. But 20 flights used to be unthinkable in terms of a Falcon 9 stage holding up to all that stress and all those loads that they face, both on launch and descent. But at this point, SpaceX, I think Elon was actually the one to break the news on this maybe last year at some point, how they want to certify Falcon 9 cores for up to, or at least, 40 flights. And they're almost 75% there, at least with 1067, although there are a handful of boosters that are not far behind it, many at 25 or 26 flights as well. So Falcon 9s are quickly aging and getting older in terms of their flight time.
They really are. And speaking of flight time, we are getting closer to flight time, and I know you've got cameras and stuff to set up there, Max. So I will let you do what you got to do, and we will talk to you after Falcon 9 goes to do the thing.
Thank you very much, everybody, and I'll see y'all on the other side.
Exactly. And I did see someone asking, what is the planned trajectory tonight? Will this be visible from Pinellas County in Florida? What is the trajectory for tonight's launch for people that might just be joining for the Starlink 10-34 mission?
Yeah, so the trajectory for this one is going to actually go pretty nicely up the eastern coast of the US. So if you're anywhere up on the east coast there, north of the Kennedy Space Center, you might actually be able to see this one going off there. It is going in a 53.16 degree inclined target orbit with orbital parameters of 256 or 265 kilometers by 277. So yeah, as long as you are north of the Kennedy Space Center, you look above the horizon there, you should have a decent chance of being able to see it, as well as a little bit south of the Kennedy Space Center there.
Yeah, you can still see them towards Palm Beach County, bit of Broward County. If you go southwards west, you might still be able to see it out towards the Tampa area. But if you're anywhere along the northeast, take a look out, especially northern parts of Florida, the Carolinas, as you work up that way, even towards Virginia a bit. You'll really be able to see the first stage and potentially parts of the second stage. Although, again, with it being a new moon, it might not be as bright, or just past a new moon, it might not be as bright as usual. It is worth noting that this is going to be 27 of the regular Starlink satellites. These are the V2 minis, not the usual big ol' direct-to-cell ones, as we talked about earlier. That is pretty much complete for round one of those. Also complete right now should be the chill down of the Merlin 1D engines at the base of the rocket. Obviously important, just like with the lines earlier, Cody, right?
Yeah, so whenever we're working around cryogenic propellants, an important thing is, again, we don't want to shatter components, right? So much like the lines on the transporter, we don't want to shatter those. So we flow cool propellants through the engines to chill down those channels. So while you might think of an engine as running hot, these cryogenic propellants are flowing all throughout the engines. And so little channels within the engine bell, or the nozzle there, flow cryogenic propellants. And so you need to pre-flow those so that you don't accidentally shock those very small channels and break one. Yeah.
Yep, so we will see that. We are now coming up on 5 minutes to go here until the launch. And this booster, again, right now kind of cloaked in its fog, so to speak, from the frost on the outside of the vehicle, is pretty new-ish otherwise. This is booster 1092, right?
Yes, so this is a pretty new booster, 1092 here. Previously, it has flown. It started flying by launching Starlink 12-13. It flew NROL 69, CRS 32, and then GPS 3 SV08. So this will be the 5th mission for this booster. So a pretty fresh booster here still. As Max was saying, a lot of boosters. The standard is to get to those 20 flights. So it's about a quarter of the way there. About a quarter of the way there. Sorry, math on stream is a little bit hard. But yeah, again, pretty new booster. It's pretty cool to see.
And for the second time in just over 2 days, we will see the strongback retract. That is the metallic structure that goes up against the vehicle that will unclamp from under the fairing halves there and recline 1.8 degrees. That will throw all the way back at T0. That is the TE that helps provide propellant lines, electrical lines, data lines, all of that, while it is still attached to the ground. And it is worth noting, as we've been discussing throughout the stream, in case you're joining, this would set a record for the fastest time between launches at the same pad here for SpaceX. We are talking just over 2 days, 8 hours ago since its launch earlier this week. So we are talking record turnaround times here for this T0. 2 days, 8 hours, 31 minutes, and 10 seconds to be exact. If it launches on time, which is 12:26 a.m. Eastern Time, just about 3 minutes from now. Cody, what can we expect here in the last parts of the countdown?
Yep. So as we get here, kind of getting really, really close here to take off.
Is complete.
We just heard there that LOX load is complete on the vehicle for the stage 1. Going down to T-minus 1 minute, we'll see the internal flight computers take over control there. So they'll be monitoring all the sensors throughout the vehicle and determine, hey, does this look right? Does this not look right? And you'll be able to automatically abort the launch just for liftoff there and engine ignition. As we get to 40 again at T-minus 1 minute, propellant tank pressurization will end. So sorry, I'm mixing up my words here. The tanks will pressurize for flight. Making sure that they fully supply the pressure needed to sustain the burn there. At T-minus 45 seconds, the launch director will verify go for launch. At T-minus 3 seconds, we'll see that green flash of the T-tab as we see the ignition. And then we'll have liftoff at T-minus 0 seconds.
And with that, stage 2 LOX load complete, vehicle fully fueled here. Next will be the closeout of those gas lines. So you hear the gas closeout line call out. You will also see one final vent, similar to the 20-minute, 20-second vent, as they purge the lines one final time ahead of launch. That way, any remaining propellants are dispersed and out of the way as the giant flames pass by.
Ground gas closeouts.
There we go. There's the call out, and there is the venting, as you can see on your screen. So far, everything proceeding on time here. About 1 minute, 15 seconds to go before we enter those major milestones of the count that Cody was just talking about there. You can barely see the rocket bathed in the fog, but what we should be hearing shortly is the call out that Falcon 9 is in startup and that the onboard computers take control.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
There we go. Tanks are pressurized into flight levels. Computer is onboard computer is under control of the count. Next, we just need the go for launch from the launch director.
Launch director, go for launch.
That's what we like to hear. We are now 30 seconds or so away from launch. We have the go for launch. We will once again be quiet and let you listen to the beautiful launch audio once it does lift off. Keep in mind, it does take a couple of seconds to reach our microphones, which are at the 39 press site, a couple of miles away, so it will take a short while. But we're now 15 seconds away. Next up will be the activation of the Rainbirds, a sort of deluge system that will happen at the base of the vehicle, which can be obscured a bit by the bushes in the way. Next should be that engine ignition. And liftoff of Falcon 9 and Starlink 10-34. Go Starlink V2 Minis, go. . absolutely beautiful sounding launch tonight as Falcon 9 pushes through max Q, maximum aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. Now climbing through the sort of cloudy evening / early morning here at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. As it gets into the thinner parts of the atmosphere, you'll start to see that plume of those 9 engines expand. I see people saying that they heard the VAB squeal. We also heard the yee-hoo squeal. Everything going well tonight so far. Next up, we will have 3 events in rapid succession. That will be stage separation, or MECO, main engine cutoff. Then we will have stage separation, where the first and second stages will separate away. That will be followed by SES-1, second engine start 1, when the single Merlin vacuum engine will ignite to continue pushing those 27 Starlink V2 mini satellites into orbit.
Main engine cutoff.
There's MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
And back ignition.
And there we go. We have ignition, and now you see it. Now that they have those little animations on the bottom, you can see that it ignites before we see the actual visual of it. And there is that glow of the engine bell, the one that we were talking about earlier with the testing that you only typically see in flight, and the longer one, given that this is all a very heavy mission with all of these Starlink satellites.
Fairing
Grid
separation
fin-
confirmed.
Grid fins deploy on the left, fairing halves deploy on the right. And another fun note, besides that, now setting a record for the fastest time between launches for SpaceX at Slick 40 at just over 2 days and 8 hours. That also had a fairing half that was flying for a 30-second time. SpaceX is getting pretty good at this reuse thing, huh, Cody?
Yeah, I mean, seeing fairing halves fly more than boosters is quite the spectacle there.
Yeah, 32 times. That is also a record tonight. So 2 records set with a fairing half that has flown for the most times, and the fastest turnaround time at 2 hours, 2 days, 8 hours, 31 minutes, and 10 seconds between launches, both of which were Starlink launches this week. And now stage 1 is going to continue its coast. We should be coming up just about now near apogee. What do we mean by apogee, Cody, here?
Yep. So the term apogee kind of refers to, it's the rocket scientist way of saying the highest point in its trajectory. If you threw a baseball straight up in the air and then it fell back down, the point which it reaches its highest altitude is called the apogee. And then once you eventually enter an orbit, like we see in these vehicles, the lowest point in your orbit is called the perigee. So around Earth, it's apogee, perigee. Around the sun, it's called aphelion, perihelion. So a ton of different names for that, but it just basically means highest point, lowest point.
Yep. And at this point now, you can see the speed picking up, the altitude going down with those numbers in the bottom left. That's apogee. That's number wing. Julia Bergeron, who's out tonight as well, saying that she can still hear the downrange rumble. I mean, Max, the atmosphere tonight playing wonders with that sound. That audio is beautiful.
Yeah, just as predicted, the very thick and humid air tonight definitely aided in making the launch tonight sound incredible. You may have heard me. You may have heard me say a little yeehaw somewhere in the audio through the microphone. It was very strong. It was very crisp tonight as well. A beautiful night to watch the launch, and also the light bouncing back off of the cloud and lighting up the entire Falcon 9 rocket before it flew through the clouds as well was equally beautiful. Just a gorgeous one tonight, even though we lost it in the clouds.
Well, one thing that we will see, at least in just a couple of seconds, is the entry burn, which will start off with a single engine igniting, followed shortly after by a total of 3 engines being ignited. So let's take a look.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
There's the first engine, and there's the 3 engines, and you can see it on your screen when it jumps to that kind of square with those 2 lines there. That is when you know all 3 engines are firing. And you can see that speed rapidly burning off. That will then, once again, like it did before, drop down to a single engine before fully shutting down in just a couple of seconds.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
And there's the one, and there's the done. For now, at least, we should say, as we still have the landing burn set to come. That is a single engine burn that will hopefully see it touching downrange on tonight's drone ship, which is a shortfall of gravitas. Doug, I should mention, by the way, is the fairing recovery ship downrange to pick up those fairings, including the one, as we mentioned, flying for a record 32nd time. I love this part where you can see the atmosphere interacting with the grid fins. Sorry, go ahead, Max.
I was just going to say there's some plasma building up on that right-hand side grid fin.
It's one of my favorite parts. As it gets to the thicker parts in the atmosphere, you can see also how quickly the speed is bleeding off. Now 10 kilometers off the deck of the drone ship.
We might also get audio because this is a shortfall of gravitas.
That is true. First stage now below the speed of sound. 6 kilometers to go. We should start seeing the light. There it is. That little pixel of light by one of the left grid fins. That is the drone ship down there. So in just a couple seconds, we should have the landing burn start.
Stage 1 landing burn.
There's that single engine. You'll see those grid fins putting in the work.
Guidance.
There we go. The grid fins doing their steering towards the deck.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
There's the legs, and
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
touchdown.
Beautiful.
That's what we like to see. Another one on the deck. Good as it gets, just like butter. And now stage 2 will continue to finish off its burn here. That'll be a couple more seconds, and then we will have Seco 1, the second engine cutoff 1. And there it is. We say Seco 1 because there is an SES 2, a second engine start 2, and a 2-second burn kind of later on. That happens about 50 minutes into the flight. SpaceX, though, shuts off their stream now, basically, while we work on getting you replays from all of our cameras here. But Max, the sound tonight, I mean, that humidity this week has been packing a punch, has it not?
It has, but it's also worth keeping in mind that we are now well into summer here in Central Florida, so that is going to be basically the norm until basically mid-November, unfortunately, meaning that it is not going to be the most comfortable outdoors unless we have some kind of cooler front that comes through and makes the air a bit more merciful to everyone that is on the ground here in Florida. But we are braving it, and obviously Falcon 9 did as well, and it was glorious.
Glorious indeed. Yes, I see someone in chat saying that they saw it all the way in Virginia.
Whoa!
Yeah. I saw a lot of people. If you were able to see it, A, let us know, and B, if you got any pictures or photos, please share it to us on our socials. We're on all of your favorite socials, X, Facebook, Instagram, in addition to Threads, TikTok. Check us out. And also, send us whatever you got. We love to see it. Of course, we will post whatever we get too, and other awesome space-related photos, replays, this day in spaceflight histories. It's cool. Saw it in North Carolina. Did not see it in Yorkshire. Sorry to hear that. One day, maybe, whoever that person is in York. The people saying Pixar, it didn't happen. Visible in Columbia, South Carolina.
Very nice.
I love it. I absolutely love seeing it. Cody, have you actually seen a launch?
The only launch I've seen was Flight 5 of Starship. I went down there. I was able to make it down there. But being on the West Coast, being from Oregon, I've not seen many of these launches in person. So I might be making my way down there this summer. I got to see what my plans are, but I definitely have to make my way down to Florida just sometime. And for the East Coast. I gotta go.
I hate to say it, Cody, but if Flight 5 was your first ever launch, it is all downhill from here, my friend.
It's ruined. Yep. No, I keep reminiscing with the people I went with, and we're like, man, that was probably one of the better launches that we could have seen out of all the Starship flights. But you know what? I would be so happy to see any Falcon 9 launch in person. It just makes me so happy to see any of these launches online or in person.
Yeah, even an RTLS isn't as great, but then again, you don't need that when you have the beauty that you see on screen anyway. These from our fleet cam that we have down at the port, that is also Rusty's at the port, the restaurant there, kind enough to allow us to have those cameras up there. If you don't go down for a launch, Cody, and are looking for a place to eat, it is a great place to go. And again, I love that the clouds right there. Oh, I mean, there's something about a rocket hitting a cloud at night. It just the cloud illumination, right, Max?
There's a reason why we call Falcon 9 in particular, and other rockets that have solids and or RP-1 powered first stage engines, artificial sunrises. And this replay here is a perfect example of it. It is incredibly bright and turns night into day, but almost, not quite. Although the only rocket that really has come close to that was Artemis 1. As you recall, Sawyer, you and I watched that just feet apart.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was spectacularly bright. Same when I saw STS-130. There's something about those SRBs with the segments on them that pack quite a punch. And that's not in reference to the Bolay punch through either, which there's great 4K slow-mo video on our channel. Anyway, but yeah, thank you, Jay, reminding me. Some rockets turn night into day. Others apparently turn day into more day. I will never live that down.
Is there a joke I'm missing there?
That was during Monday's Atlas launch when I was trying to describe it. I was talking about how, we say how night turns into day, and my dumb head thought, how do I describe this? And I said it's like turning day into more day.
Similar how the turnaround for tonight was 2 hours, 8 days, and something other minutes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Max. I appreciate you reminding me of my mess ups tonight. At least I didn't have to sing, Jay, so I appreciate that.
I'm sure Jay could change that really quickly.
Hopefully we run out of replays before that, but we still have more replays coming. And then, of course, we have Max's, again, beautiful view. We should, I believe, have audio with this one as well. And we get to hear the yee-hoo, too. Let's re-enjoy the sounds and listen for that VAV squeal. Max, I love that there was sort of the little oops realization when you did it, but I mean, when you're out there, right?
I mean, I could play the I forgot I was recording and the microphone's right there card, but obviously that's not believable whatsoever. But we are really one of the lucky ones to be out here and cover all these as much as we can, and even as many as we've seen now. And I'm personally approaching 300 launches here pretty soon. It really does not get old, especially here at night, just watching the the atmosphere change and the foreground around you just turn from a pitch black to just it's almost daytime. It's a wonderful experience. I wish everybody could experience all of this as much as we do. But that is, of course, why we stream even these late night Starlinks for everyone to enjoy, because even though they all look very, very similar, each one is unique in their own right, and they're all still an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely. I mean, we all do it. It's just sometimes the microphone picks it up, but I mean, we're all out there still hooting and hollering. When it launches, there are times I still catch myself saying, wow, even though, again, Max, you and I have seen this dozens and dozens of times. You still do I love that you still do a fist bump whenever it goes off, too. It's a subtle thing, but you do it every time, and it makes me so happy when you do it, because it's just another one.
I mean,
100%.
it's hard. It's got to be hard not to. These things are giant buildings using controlled explosions, shaking the air. How can you not get excited at these?
It's true.
I mean, fair point. You know, we should do that. We should do this again sometime. But
in just
not
in just a few days, right, Sawyer?
Yeah, of course. Don't forget, next Spaceflight app will tell you when the next one is, because I'm forgetting off the top of my head. But there will be more. So I want to thank everyone that joined me here tonight. Thank you, Max, for rolling out in the field and bringing us the views and the yee-hoos.
The views and the yee-hoos. Wow, Sawyer. But yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. I know it's a late hour for some of you, but thank you very much for coming to hang out as always, and we are always happy to be here. And hopefully we will see y'all again very soon.
Yes, and thank you, Cody, as well, for joining me here on commentary.
It's always a pleasure to join you for these launches here, and I can't wait till the next one.
Looking forward to it, and thank you, Jay Keegan, for pushing the buttons, pulling the levers tonight. See, I actually thank the producers. And yes, don't forget, the next launch, as I'm being told, is a doubleheader again. This coming Tuesday, a Starlink at 1:52 a.m. Eastern, and then a customer mission, Sentinel 4A, at 5:03 p.m. Eastern. So lots still to come. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Make sure you subscribe so you know when those launches happen. I'm Sawyer Rosenstein. We will see you all on the next one.
And here we go.
We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be nominal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, with planet.
Water towers fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FTE off. Say again, FTE off. It's orange!
45! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?